Why are people and governments so far apart in terms of understanding? Can global interests ever match those of individual nations? These are two of the questions on the agenda for debate in a strategic round of conferences taking place within the EU. Top-flight experts and decision-makers are getting together in 5 capital cities: Rome in March, Budapest in June, Madrid in October and Istanbul early next year. The series kicked off in Paris in January. EuroNews met 2 experts, Thomas Koenig, coordinator of a European-funded research project, and Jean Quatremer, Brussels correspondent of the French left-wing daily Libération. So, gentlemen, what's wrong with Europe?
Pour moi, cette crise, elle est en grande partie.
As far as I'm concerned, this crisis is mainly down to the fact that the political elite have not managed to pass their enthusiasm for Europe to its people. I will never forget how at the beginning of the 90s, in 1992, in fact, Helmut Kohl began referring to it as the bureaucratic demon. After that, it turned into a contest to show just how horrendous Europe was. These days, while efforts to build up the EU are going on one hand, on the other hand, there are those who lay blame at the feet of Brussels and Frankfurt, where the Central European Bank is. There's a tendency among member states to say that everything that goes wrong is the fault of the EU. On the one hand, we blame our failures on the European system, but we fet our national successes as our own.
Et à nationaliser les succès européens.
I think that your thesis and the examples you mentioned very much stress the internal view of Europe, but there's also a second perspective, and that focuses on the outside view of Europe. And what we see in this regard is perhaps more the story of success. On the one hand, we find a lot of countries which attempt still to exceed the European Union. And so it's a widening union, and we have nowadays, for the first time, we have a unified Europe without any attempts of making war with 27 member states. And there are powerful nations such as the United States, China, Japan, etc., who see the European Union as a successful and competitive union, which makes good deals in tariff politics, or even if we think about the future, we have more to concentrate on climate politics.
Ça, je suis tout à fait d'accord. Le problème.
I totally agree with you there. The problem isn't so much one of explaining what Europe is good for. It's more about convincing people. They're not convinced because from the beginning, Europe concentrated on economic issues, competition, questions about deregulation, etc., etc. But the states have refused to give up their welfare and financial sovereignty. And so, bit by bit, Europe has seemed like an instrument of deregulation, something a bit menacing, which tramples over boundaries and kills off individual state monopolies at the same time as states try to protect what they felt was theirs. And if you throw globalization into the mix, you have an all-pervasive Europe coupled with a second economic phenomenon, which entails high-speed modernization.
Et si vous rajoutez là-dessus la mondialisation, avec donc une Europe qui déréglemente,
that makes people afraid. It's true to say that Europe is a positive force. We just haven't explained what that positiveness is.
Soit positif, c'est certain, sauf qu'on leur a pas expliqué que c'était positif.
I think that your argument is right, that many people don't like what the European Union at least symbolizes at the moment. But however, many governments, and at least the German presidency, I think they are aware of the fact. And they restart now the constitutional project in order to make visible for the people that the constitution will improve the situation, and it will at least the Charter of Fundamental Rights will be introduced. Other aspects, the European Parliament will participate more in decision making.
Brutalement, l'Europe est passée de 15 à 25.
Europe expanded abruptly from 15 to 25 and then 27 countries. And no one outlined what to expect. Enlargement was taken to mean a maximum of 1, 2 or 3 countries, so the new joiners could be gradually absorbed. Then all of a sudden 10 countries are added.
Brutalement, donc, on augmente.
When organisms multiply like that in the human body, it's called a cancer.
Dans un corps humain, ça s'appelle un cancer.
It's happening too fast and people are scared. This is likely to lead to further complications over the constitution.
L'enjeu constitutionnel.
Okay, I mean, the German presidency has now taken up again this project, and I think, at least according to our scientific results, there are at least two solutions for proceeding with the constitutional process. And one is to make concessions to those countries and populations which have voted no, and those, of course, which are the remaining ones in the United Kingdom, in Denmark, in Czechia. These are all very skeptical countries or with skeptical populations. But however, we find that if the German presidency would make some concessions just regarding, let's say, the dominant voting quota for Germany, and then a solution would be feasible. And there's also another solution within this package of the European project, namely that they renegotiate this solution again. And according to our findings, at least, we can say that there is a smaller treaty possible which fits the interest of all the governments and the people of the European Union.
So do you think we should let the people have their say? Should we hold more referenda?
Yes, we should hold further referenda, but we should only agree to minor tweaks in the treaty. Nothing substantial.
My
worry about that would be that once again it disregards the consensus of public opinion. These days, a large part of the left, particularly in France, think that a welfare system or even democracy itself can only exist within a nation state. There's a risk that some countries will drift away, most notably France, but we've also seen how the extreme anti-European parties gained ground in the local elections in the Netherlands. There's the risk of a slide towards social sovereignty. In other words, given that Europe and globalization are perceived as a menace, then we can only really solve our individual problems within the context of our own nation states. This is the first time this type of nationalist thinking's been seen since 1945, since the end of the Second World War, when everyone realized that nation-state politics represented a threat to peace. I think this crisis is a very deep one, and I don't think the constitutional process will be relaunched easily. I think we're talking about a timescale of generations.
The constitutional project, again here, attempts to find another perspective on how the European Union could function. What has to be done is here we have to reduce this constitutional text to the most relevant issues, and we have to reduce it to those issues which really make a reform and do not repeat the status quo. C'était très intéressant. Ouais.